Hey guys, welcome to week 2 of the Diary of Anne Frank. For those of you who might be just joining me, you are welcome to start on week 2, but you may want to back up and go back to week 1, where we actually started in the beginning of the book, because it gives some background on Anne before they went into hiding and then what it was like when they went into hiding. So you might be missing a little bit if you start today. This is marked in here as day 6. So make sure you go all the way back to day 1 to hear the early part of the story. So at this point, I'm skipping ahead, and you'll notice as we move forward, I'm going to skip ahead a lot more in order to really get through the high points of the diary in 3 weeks, which is what we're going to be reading. It's important that I kind of skip ahead a little bit. So today, for day 6 of the reading, we're going to be starting in October of 1942. Anne and her family have been in hiding for a while now, and they, as I think I have told you before, there was a group of people who were helping them get food and things that they needed while they were in hiding, and these people would often give them news of what was going on in the outside world. They were also able to listen to the radio at night when all of the people who were working in the working down below in the factory or in the workroom, when they went home, they were able to kind of have a normal life in the evening. So they learned some things about the outside world in this particular diary entry, and she also is going to reference Westerbork, which was a concentration camp that was on the east of Amsterdam. In the Netherlands, and it was kind of the main housing place for Jews that were being pulled out of Amsterdam and other parts of the Netherlands, and then they were often from Westerbork shipped off to other concentration camps that some of which would be more well known to you, like Auschwitz and things like that. But if you're interested in kind of finding out where the concentration camps were and all that kind of stuff, you can research that. When my husband and I went to Europe a couple of years ago, we wanted to have the opportunity to go to a concentration camp, and you would be amazed by how many there are. There were a lot of concentration camps. So there's lots of different places where you can research that on the internet. And then the last thing they're kind of really focus on is rationing, which is something that in a way you guys can connect with, because your parents go to the grocery store, and sometimes you have a list, and sometimes you can get what's on that list, and sometimes you can't get what's on that list. It's getting better now at this point, but that was definitely something that was really difficult in the beginning. So Anne's going to reference that a little bit. So I'm going to start with Friday, October 9th, 1942. Dear Kitty, I've only got dismal and depressing news for you today. Our many Jewish friends are being taken away by the dozen. These people are treated by the Gestapo without a shred of decency, being loaded into cattle trucks and sent to Westerbork, the big Jewish camp in Drenthe. Westerbork sounds terrible. Only one washing cubicle for 100 people, and not nearly enough lavatories. There is no separate accommodation. Men, women, and children all sleep together. One hears of frightening immortality because of this, and a lot of women and even girls who stay there any length of time are expecting babies. It is impossible to escape. Most of the people in the camp are branded as inmates by their shaven heads, and many also by their Jewish appearances. If it is as bad as this in Holland, whatever will it be like in the distant and barbarous regions they are sent to? We assume that most of them are murdered. The English radio speaks of their being gassed. Perhaps that is the quickest way to die. I feel terribly upset. I couldn't tear myself away while Miep told these dreadful stories, and she herself was equally wound up for that matter. Just recently, for instance, a poor old crippled Jewess was sitting on her doorstep. She had been told to wait there by the Gestapo, who had gone to fetch a car to take her away. The poor old thing was terrified by the guns that were shooting at English planes overhead and by the glaring beams of the searchlights. But Miep did not dare take her in. No one would undergo such a risk. The Germans strike without the slightest mercy. Eli, too, is very quiet. Her boyfriend has got to go to Germany. She was afraid that the airmen who fly over our homes will drop their bombs, often weighing 1,000,000 kilos, on Dirk's head. Jokes such as, "He's not likely to get 1,000,000, and it only takes one bomb," are in rather bad taste. Dirk is certainly not the only one who has to go. Trainloads of boys leave daily. If they stop at a small station en route, sometimes some of them manage to get out unnoticed and escape. Perhaps a few manage it. This, however, is not the end of my bad news. Have you ever heard of hostages? That's the latest thing in penalties for sabotage. Can you imagine anything so dreadful? Prominent citizens, innocent people, are thrown into prison to await their fate. If the saboteur can't be traced, the Gestapo simply put about 5 hostages against the wall. Announcements of their death appear in the paper frequently. These outrages are described as fatal accidents. Nice people, the Germans. I think that I was once one of them too. Or to think that I was once one of them too. No, Hitler took away our nationality long ago. In fact, Germans and Jews are the greatest enemies in the world. Yours, Anne. Sorry, I think I skip ahead a little bit here, and I was realizing I was not on the right page. Give me just a second. Okay, she is going to talk about, sorry about this, I was on the wrong page. Oh, she does a diary entry about they take in an 8th person. I'm not going to read it for now, but he's going to get referenced later, and his name was Dussel, and he was a dentist, but a Jew, so that's why he went into hiding with them. Let me skip ahead a little bit here. She talks about Dussel being nice. She ends up having to share a room with Dussel, which was really hard for both of them because neither one of them liked the other, and so they struggled with, sharing that room. He wanted it, and he wanted to have it some, and she wanted to have it some, and they fought a bunch about it. All right, I'm going to skip ahead. Sorry about that. Saturday, November 28th, 1942. Dear Kitty, we have used too much electricity, more than our ration. Result? The utmost economy and prospect of having it cut off. No light for a fortnight, which is 2 weeks. A pleasant thought that, but who knows, perhaps it won't happen after all. It's too dark to read in the afternoons after 4 or half past. We pass the time in all sorts of crazy ways, asking riddles, physical training in the dark, talking English and French, criticizing books, but it all begins to pale in the end. Yesterday evening, I discovered something new. To peer through the powerful pair of field glasses into the lighted rooms of the houses in the back. In the daytime, we can't allow even so much as a centimeter chink to appear between our curtain, but it can't do any harm after dark. I never knew before that neighbors could be such interesting people. At any rate, ours are. I found one couple having a meal. One family was in the act of taking in a home movie, and the dentist opposite was just attending to an old lady who was awfully scared. It was always said about Mr. Dussel that he could get on wonderfully with children and that he loved them all. Now he shows himself in his true colors, a stodgy, old-fashioned disciplinarian and a preacher of long, drawn-out sermons on manners. As I have the unusual good fortune to share my bedroom, alas, a small one, with his lordship, and as I am generally considered to be the most badly behaved of the 3 young people, I have had a lot to put up with, and have to pretend to be deaf in order to escape the old, much-repeated ticking off and warnings. All this couldn't be too bad if he wasn't such a frightful sneak, and he didn't pick on Mummy, of all people, to sneak to every time. When I've already had just a dose of him, Mummy goes after it all over again. So I get a gale aft as well as before. So she's saying that when she does things, he'll go to her mom and tell her, and then she gets in trouble again. Then I'm really lucky. If I'm really lucky, I'm called on to give an account of myself to Mrs. Van Daan and then get a veritable hurricane. Honestly, you needn't think it's easy to be badly brought up, central figure of a hypocritical family in hiding. When I lie in bed at night and think over the many sins and shortcomings attributed to me, I get so confused by it all, and I either laugh or cry. It depends on what sort of mood I'm in. Then I fall asleep. with a stupid feeling of wishing to be different from what I am or from what I want to be, perhaps to behave differently from the way that I want to behave or do behave. Oh, the heavens above. Now I'm getting you in a muddle too. Forgive me. But if I don't like crossing things out, and in these days of paper shortage, we are not allowed to throw paper away. Therefore, I can only advise you not to read the last sentence again, and certainly not to try to understand it, because you won't succeed anyhow. Yours, Anne. Okay, so if you are watching the videos, I encourage you to continue doing the shelter in place journal. I have seen some amazing journals. Thank you to those of you guys who turned in the journals from week 1. It was really cool to see the things that you were thinking, and there were all kinds of different things. Some people connected how they felt to what Anne was doing. Some people just used it as a way to kind of talk out, how things were going, both the good and the bad things that kind of were happening and that they were dealing with at home. Use it as a way to just kind of work through this difficult situation. And then please send them to me at the end of the week. If there is one that you feel like is too personal and you don't want me to see it, that is absolutely fine. This writing is for you. So you're welcome. Just let me know that, how many journal entries you're submitting to me, and that'll be okay. So see you tomorrow.